Hello and welcome to Don't Touch the Beard, number 13. Who knew that this would be a thing that gets as high as 13, and who knew that this would be a thing that gets as high as 300 subscribers? So thank you very much, handy viewers such as you are, for quite the accolade, something I never quite expected. I hope you continue to enjoy watching me video document and then talk nonsense over the top of games of Guild Ball just as much as I enjoy doing these ridiculous videos for you. I'd like to draw your attention this week before we get going to a new YouTube channel called Superior Strategist, who I will link in the doobly-doo beneath the table within the item description of this video. They have a phenomenal opening sequence, one that I am quite jealous of. And I need to work on my opening sequence game apparently, and also they do some fantastic battle reports, so go and take a look at them and support yet another YouTube battle rap Guild Ball thing channel stuff. So I am joined by an old friend this week in the form of Steve Newton, who apparently, turns out, is a former world number one at this whole Guild Ball malarkey. I know him for entirely different reasons, nothing to do with wargaming, but here we are. Excellent, love the way this hobby works. He has elected to go with Fisherman. I will be playing Morticians, but then you knew that from the opening graphic. He has a 6, so we didn't do a draft. He went with Corsair, Tentacles, Jack, Sakana, Siren and Greyscales. I in turn went with Obulus, Dirge, Brainpan and Memory, Cosset, Ghast and Graves. Getting pretty good at this intro malarkey. Might not have any flying graphics zooming around like them Superior Strategist boys, but you know, all I have to do is talk up a storm. What's that little red light on the microphone? Oh, still recording. So Steve goes with 4 on Corsair, 1 on Tentacles, 1 on Jack, 4 on Sakana, 1 on Siren and 3 on Greyscales. In turn I put 5 on Obulus, none on Dirge, 4 on Brainpan, 2 on Cosset, 1 on Ghast, 1 on Graves. So Greyscales gets us underway and he sprints forward, snapping the ball too. He then does where they go back towards his line, and then passes the ball to Jack, banking the point of momentum. I activate Dirge and therefore use control strings to dodge Memory forward, and Dirge has himself a little fly up the board. See? There he goes. Wasn't lying or nothing. Jack in turn jogs forward and then passes the ball to Siren successfully and banks the point of momentum. Ghast activates and there's some more control strings from Memory. Ghast has a little jog up the pitch in turn. Tentacles does likewise. It's all very joggy right now. Graves in turn tools up Cosset. Having successfully made Cosset a tool, Graves then takes a jog up into cover. In possession of the ball, Siren jogs forward between Tentacles and Jack, and then passes the ball to Corsair, banking the point of momentum again. Really like the cool little momentum abacus Steve's got going on. I activate Brainpan, who's now become somewhat of a staple in my lineups, and one that I'm very happy using, so naturally now I do something incredibly stupid with him. So as Brainpan activates, control strings kicks in, and Memory dodges forward 2 inches. I then jog Brainpan forward and massively overextend using Puppet Show. Corsair activates and successfully passes to Sakana, who uses Pass and Move to dodge Sakana forward. Looking at this back, I personally would have dodged Sakana this side of the cover rather than the other side. This is literally the only critique of Steve's play I have for the entire game. Corsair then has a little jog forward and prepares to farm momentum off the overextended Memory. So that is tax 7 due to crowd outs from Siren versus 5s and O's. 3 net hits is a momentous 2 damage and a push. He then puts Stand Firm on Sakana, I suspect more out of muscle memory than anything else, as everyone on the top side of the pitch is now activated for the Morticians. He then punches the poor little puppet again, tax 7 versus 5s and O's. 2 net hits is a momentous knockdown. Activate Obulus, and then using control strings I dodge Memory forward, compounding my overextension further. I then have a 2-inch dodge of my own with Obulus thanks to Shadow-like. Not quite such a bad use of a dodge here. He then puts Confidence on the already tooled up Cosset, has himself a little jog forward, and then Puppet Masters Jack forward, making him take a jog directly towards my lines. Sakana has a sprint forward. This is why I say he should have gone this side of the cover rather than the other. Although he, of course, does have +2 movement for starting his activation in cover, so the cover part of it is still an excellent idea. He buys an attack on Ghast, paying an additional point of influence due to fear, possibly offset by the fact he will be ignoring armor. So that is TAC 5s versus 3s and O's. 5 net hits is a momentous double dodge. Having dodged deftly around Ghast, Sakana then bonus times a shot on goal. 4-0 to the Fisherman right off the top of turn 1. Lovely. So I kick out and the ball scatters, snapping directly to Obulus. And then with what I believe to be the last activation of the turn, Cosset goes crazy, doing 3 damage to herself and giving herself +3 tack. She then charges with her Furious ability, so not requiring to spend any influence. So that is TAC 11 with rerolls from Confidence versus the 3s and 1s of Jack. 7 net hits in total, so that is a momentous Screeching Banshee and a momentous dodge. I used the dodge to get into base-to-base contact with Jack, who has declared a counterattack. Now Jack does have tough hide, so that will entirely offset the tooled up that I've taken from Graves. Now Jack also has the rather lovely Resolute rule, so he's at +2 tack for the duration of any counterattacks. What other models have got that? Anyone? So that makes him TAC 7 versus the 4s and O's of Cosset. 5 net hits is a double push away from Jack, putting her well outside of her own melee engagement, meaning that those other 2 influence on her will go begging unless I can find a purpose for them other than attacks. So frustrated by not being able to attack anymore, I use the final 2 points of influence on Cosset to lure Jack forward, hoping to at least overextend him from his lines as we come to the end of turn 1. So it's 2 momentum to me and 4 momentum to the fish. The first roll-off is tied, however math prevails in the second roll-off. Fish win and Steve elects to go first, giving me a point of momentum. So at this point some fella decided to kick the massive pole of scaffolding that my camera is attached to, and I tried very hard not to have a sense of humour about it. I'm sure he did it on accident, at least I'd hope so. So fish allocation, that is 6 to Corsair, 1 to Tentacles, 2 to Jack, 4 to Sakana, none to Siren, and 1 to Grayscales. Morticians then, 6 for Obulus, 1 for Dirge, none for Brainpan, 2 for Cosset, 3 for Ghast, and 1 for Graves. Really need to find a better use for Graves. Don't really think I'm particularly using him to his full advantage. If you've got any tips for using Graves, please to be leaving them in the doobly-doo below. So we start turn 2 with Jack, who is TAC 5 versus the 4s and O's of Cosset. That is 2 net hits, which is a momentous push. He then looks to use Goad on Obulus, electing not to bonus time it, and partially, perhaps as a result of that, the Goad is unsuccessful. He then uses his point of momentum from earlier on in the turn to use Trident Tested, causing Cosset, Dirge and Obulus all to be pushed 4 inches directly away. He then takes a jog back to his own line, so not only is he now no longer overextended, but my pitch position is much, much worse off than it was at the beginning. Great opening activation for turn 2. Right then, best do something about all these fishes. I activate Ghast and jog him towards Sakana. That's TAC 6 versus the 4s and 1s of Sakana. Naturally, I only get 1 net hit, so that is 1 point of damage. Boo! So thanks to Poised, or Poist, as he's a fish, as it should be, and Anatomical Precision, he gets a free counterattack at TAC 5 versus 3s and O's. Is 2 net hits, which is enough for a dodge, skipping Sakana out of Ghast's engagements. Tricksy little fishy. A jog then from Sakana as he activates. Right then, all the rules to remember on this one. First of all, when Sakana attacks Ghast, Fear kicks in, so it costs 1 additional influence. Equally though, he is anatomically precise, so he's reducing my armor. So that is tack 5 versus 3s and O's. 5 net hits this time is a momentous weak point Steve goes for, meaning that anyone else that's attacking Gus for the rest of the turn, Gus is at -1 armor. Another attack, tack 5s versus 3s and O's. 4 net hits this time is enough for a momentous double dodge. Third attack, tack 5s versus 3s and O's. I declare a counter attack, and of course he gets 4 net hits and a momentous double dodge, and is gone. I activate Graves, who tools up Cosset, making her a tool. It's a running gag, keep up. Steve activates Siren and just passes his activation. So seeing as burn activations is the order of the day, I activate Dirge, who flies into cover in the centre of the screen. Steve activates Grayscales, who where'd they goes. Is that a verb? How else do you say that? I activate Brain Pan, and the local 40k players behind me make this noise. Somewhat deafened and perplexed, I move Brain Pan to engage Sakana. Seriously, lads, that's a lot of noise to make for a terrible game. Oh, and Tentacles activates and has himself a little jog. So the marauding Squiddly Puss takes a swing at poor old Puppet Face Memory. He is tack 5 due to the crowd outs versus the 4s and O's of the knockdown Puppet. That is 4 net hits for a 1 point of damage and a momentous double push. So that 1 point of damage is enough to take out Memory, but due to the inanimate object rule, while Steve will get the momentum for the takeout, he won't gain any VP. Also, Steve, that's a push, not a dodge. Right, let's get Obulus on this. So I activate the Ferryman and take a 2-inch dodge at the start of his activation due to Shadow-like. He puts Confidence onto Cosset, and then uses Puppet Master to have Cosset jog, a mighty jog of 7, off towards Sakana, who I currently see as the victim on the Fisherman's team. Now, what I've misplayed here is I should have placed her much shallower. She has a 10-inch effective or 9-inch effective threat range to get in on Sakana, and I could have made that a lot deeper, and that positioning really comes back to bite me very quickly, as you're going to see shortly. He then sprints to cover. Again, a mistake on my part for reasons that will very quickly become apparent. I should have kept him out wide on the wing. So my rough plan at this point is to kill Sakana with Cosset, and for a Obulus goal at the top of the next turn. However, I have made it so that neither of these things are possible due to awful positioning on my part. 1, I've brought Obulus towards the centre near the Fisherman. 2, I've moved Cosset across, but really telegraphed that intent and not put her anywhere near shallow enough. So all of this means that Corsair can sprint forward to take the centre position of the pitch and have a great deal of dominance. So Corsair bonus times a rough seas against Obulus, successfully stripping him of the ball. So that's one part of my plan up the Swanee. He then bonus times a drag against Cosset, pulling her directly towards Corsair, entirely ruining the other part of my plan. Well played, mate. And with his final point of influence, he takes a swing against Cosset. That is tack 6 versus 4s and O's. I believe it's 2 net hits, and he goes for the momentous knockdown. So yes, Corsair has just then, in one activation, entirely ruined my path back into the game. I am now struggling to see exactly how I get back on even an even footing with Steve's fish. So I activate Cosset, and I forego her activation to stand up, as I have no momentum with which to do it. And then, much as it was in the first turn, I spend my 2 points of influence on Lure to bring the model forward that has ruined my charge. So the biggest surprise of turn 2, as far as I'm concerned, is that there was absolutely no scoring. The score remains Morticians 0, Fish 4. Fish win the roll-off and elect to go first. So turn 3, Fish allocation, 6 for Corsair, 1 for Tentacles, 1 for Jack, 4 for Sakana, 2 for Siren, and none for Grayscales. I in turn put 4 on Obulus, none on Dirge, 4 on Brainpan, 2 on Cosset, 3 on Ghast, and none on Graves. So we'll start turn 3 with Corsair attacking Cosset. He is tack 6 versus 4s and O's, only 1 net hit and 1 point of damage. Second swing, tack 6 versus 4s and O's, 2 net hits this time, is a momentous knockdown. Time to stomp on her now she's on the ground. Tack 6 versus 3's nose, 4 net hits is 3 damage. Fourth attack, tack 6 versus 3's nose is again 4 net hits and again 3 points of damage. She's not looking healthy. Finally, that is tack 6 versus 3's nose of Cosset. 3 net hits is a momentous 2 damage and a push. So that, unsurprisingly, then is a takeout for the Fisherman. So it is now Morticians 0, Fisherman 6, as Cosset heads for an early bath. Corsair's not done though yet. He activates one leg stance, his legendary play, so that's a 6-inch aura of all friendly guild models gain +1/+2 kick, and the close control skill. Corsair then takes a jog to that pre-measured spot on the ground that's been there this whole activation. And unsurprisingly, he smashes in the goal with his now ridiculous accuracy and distance for shooting, making it Morticians 0, Fisherman 10. My way back into this game is rapidly diminishing. This has all come really from 2 huge mispositionings on my part, and the wherewithal and acumen of Steve to then take full advantage of them. Well done, mate. Absolute corker of a 6-point activation there from Corsair. So the ball kicks out and snaps to Obulus. And I start turn 3 with Brain Pan, using the thought ability to bring memory back into play within 2 inches of Brain Pan, and I pop him just behind Sakana. So in my last match report, we saw how using Puppet Show allowed Brain Pan and memory to tear their way through Hoist. Let's see how they do against Sakana. So that's tack 6 versus 4's and 1's. 1 net hit is a momentous 1 point of damage. Not a strong start. Second swing, tack 6 versus 4's and 1's. 1 net hit, 1 point of momentous damage. Still time. Tack 6 versus 4's and 1's. 3 net hits, 2 points of momentous damage. Well, I'm getting momentum. And lastly, tack 6 versus 4's and 1's. 1 net hit and 1 point of momentous damage. Oh. Well, that's not quite as glorious as I'm used to. Over on the other side of the pitch, Jack has himself a jog. He then pokes Graves for tack 5, 4 versus 4's and 1's, no net hits. It's not just me then. Now I've activated this the wrong way round. I should have done Ghast first before Brain Pan and Memory, but I jog Ghast round now to engage Sakana. So he is tack 8 versus the 4's and 1's of Sakana. 2 net hits is a momentous knockdown. Second swing, tack 8 versus the now 3's and 1's Sakana. 2 net hits, 1 point of damage. Finally, tack 8 versus 3's and 1's. 7 net hits is 4 points of damage and 1 point of damage. That's better. So Sakana has nicely weathered all of that, and he uses his activation to stand up and makes use of Take a Breather to heal 4 hit points, health boxes, HP, whatever they're called, 4 of them, on himself. Now, throughout all of this, do remember that Sakana has anatomical precision, so everyone will be 1 point of armor down. So for the entirety of the Morticians, as Veteran Graves is not on the pitch, that means I have no armor versus attacks from Sakana. So first attack is swings against Brain Pan, a wise choice, as Brain Pan's playbook is terrible for counterattacks. That's tack 3 versus 4's and 0's. He gets 1 net hit, which is enough for a momentous dodge. Second attack, tack 3 versus 4's and 0's. 3 net hits, but still opts for that momentous dodge. No longer crowded out by Ghast, who is up to the heady heights of tack 4 versus the 4's and 0's of Brain Pan. 3 net hits again, but again just taking that momentous dodge to get Sakana out of trouble and to farm as much momentum as possible. Fourth attack, up to tack 5 now versus 4's and 0's. 2 net hits, but still going for that momentous dodge, farming momentum and getting away. I activate Dirge and fly him across to engage both Sakana and Corsair. Tentacles has a jog forward, eyeing up Obulus. He then casts Blind on Obulus, so Obulus is now -2 tack, -2 kick, and -2 move. I activate Obulus, and due to control strings, Memory has himself a 2-inch dodge. And then, thanks to Shadow-like, Obulus as well has a 2-inch dodge. He then casts Confidence on himself, and then charges directly into Sakana. Now, he is at -2 move due to Blind, but still just about has enough to get in, thanks to the 2-inch reach. So with Blind penalties and crowd out bonuses and charge bonuses, that comes to tack 10 versus the 4's and 1's of Sakana. 5 net hits, and I go for the knockdown. Second attack, attack 6 versus 3s and 1s. 3 net hits this time is a momentous 2 damage. Still seeing Sakana as the victim in the fish liner and a possible avenue for at least consolation victory points at this stage. Right then, this is the final activation of the game, and it is frankly the coolest thing I've ever seen in Guild Ball. So I just wanted to give a little bit of time, put the pitch behind a curtain, give a little bit of time to appreciate, build up, to savour what is about to come, and when you're ready, we will move forward. Everyone alright? Cool. Here we go. So we'll start off, Siren activates and she declares a charge against Graves. I in turn declare a counter-attack. Nothing special so far. Calm down. So she is tack 9 versus the 4s and 1s of Graves. 5 net hits is a double dodge away, getting her out of Graves' counter-attack as she's not quite base to base, and a momentous seduced. Seduced being the target enemy model and doesn't have to be the original target of the charge, must immediately make a pass or attack without spending influence and is considered friendly for the purposes of this action. So in irony of irony, Obulus is controlled by Siren and passes the ball to Corsair, who dutifully volleys it straight into the back of the net. That brings the game to a conclusion. A Corsair snapshot giving the Fishermen a 12-0 of the Morticians, and that frankly is the gold standard of ridiculous for me going forward. Absolutely love that charge. The Siren has charged in from pretty much her own deployment line, seduced the ball off Obulus onto Corsair, who volleys it smash into the goal. Brilliant. What a way to finish. So there we are, handy viewer. What a conclusion. Absolutely loved that final goal, as you can probably tell by the setup and the way I described it. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I said on a recent episode of Singled Out that I was invited onto that Corsair remains somewhat of a mystery, and I was looking forward to reviewing the footage of Martin's games with Corsair across WTC, and I've now had a first-hand thrashing at the hand of Corsair, which has really explained it. Speaking of that episode of Singled Out, I went on there and said the following.
But I think one of the things that's most likely to make me change guild or faction or army or whatever is when I play someone from that and they do something cool that I've never seen before. And when you first see that superior strategy shenanigans, or you first see Puppet Master being utilized to its a full degree, or the first time you see the Blackheart 12 inches of dodge, all of a sudden you go, that's cool, I really like that, I want to do that, as opposed to what I should probably think, which is, that's cool, I really like that, how do I make sure that never happens again?
So that's where I am right now, handy viewer. Do not be surprised if you see me playing Fisherman very shortly in the future. In fact, I know I'm going to be playing Fisherman in the future because I used a random number generator to pick a guild for me to play in a local escalation league, and fish have come up. So the chances are you'll be seeing some fish on this channel from me very shortly. Equally, I am very tempted to not take Morticians to jumpers for guild posts. Not that I don't enjoy playing Morticians, they are now a third of my games played, and I thoroughly enjoy playing them. However, I suspect an entire day of tournamenting, if that's a verb, playing 4 rounds in a row for them, it will be mentally exhausting due to the just sheer volume of moving parts that Morticians have. If I might reflect on their power level right now, I tend to get a lot of people saying that they're a little bit behind the curve, and I think having used them now for 10 games straight or so, not all of them going on the channel, of course, naturally I don't do everything on the channel, is I don't think they're behind the curve. I think they're quite nicely balanced. What I think, however, is that they have a larger number of moving parts compared to other guilds, and in many ways that's excellent preparation for the release of the Blacksmiths, which I continue to be very, very hyped about, although I could do... Got any more of them tasty reveals there, Mr. Perkins? Because, that Hearth one was a few weeks ago now. I could do with you got any more of those nice previews? No? Alright, fine, we'll wait until hopefully SteamCon or just before we get another one. The number of moving parts reminds me a great deal of Blacksmiths in that setup between Master and Apprentice, and what Steve did very well in this game, and also in the game that we played after, not on camera, was see where those moving parts were going into, and then use goads, use blinds, use repositions with which to ruin those moving parts. So there's a lot of people crying the sky is falling down with the power level of blacksmiths at the moment, and perhaps they will get a little touch in the future. I still maintain that is down to a new playstyle, an unfamiliar playstyle, and also if you can disrupt that setup, then you're onto a winner, and the blacksmiths are going to have no use for their influence and no use for their momentum very, very quickly. Anyway, I've rambled on a little bit more than usual, but hey ho, nothing new there. So as I said at the top of this video, there is a new Guild Ball Media YouTube channel available called Superior Strategist. They have the one match report up at the moment, but they do have a very nice intro sequence that I still am mightily jealous of. I shall put a link for them in the doobly-doo. Do go and check them out and welcome them to this ridiculous community. So it remains only for me to say that right now in the centre of your screen there should be a beard. Please to be clicking it if you wish to be subscribed and notified the moment I upload this nonsense in the future. Similarly, there are links to playlists either side so that you can see either my blacksmith preview videos or the rest of the videos within this web series. And as ever, handy viewer such as you are, I need a better outro and intro as well, apparently.